Well, hi, everybody.
Hello.
We're back. And I wanted to share with you an experience I had recently where I found myself being really defensive and really kind of pushing back against something that Connie was suggesting. And I don't like that feeling. I don't like that feeling of push back and I've got to defend and that kind of thing. And it just seemed to happen. So it wasn't like I saw what was coming. It's just like push back and that's where I was at. I took a position. So I just sat with it for a little while and it kind of unwound, and I really like what I saw coming out of that. Basically, what it was is we have been using two cameras to shoot our Saturday community call with our graduate community. And I had invested a lot of time in selecting a camera that we could use to shoot the scene in the kitchen where Connie or I are preparing a dish. And then we would come over and just use the camera that's on the laptop to have the discussion and all the different things that we do on that call. And I had trouble with that camera. So I spent hours trying to resolve it. Finally, the company decided it was a hardware issue and they sent me a new one. So I was so excited I got this. And as I'm about to put it together, Connie says, I don't like that camera anyway. I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. I have invested all this. This is the camera. And she says, I don't like it. I don't like the aspect ratio. And I just found myself being defensive and all of the reasons that it, should be the way I have. So in taking a pause from that, initially it just came up, you know how it is, you get triggered and you're in it and don't see what's behind it. In taking a pause, I began to see what was behind it.
Well, could you say a little more about taking a pause? For me, taking a pause is just totally relaxing and letting the thinking mind settle down.
Yeah, I'm able to do that when it's a minor thing. But that was it, what I see now is there was a big investment that I felt needed protecting. And when I feel that there's something big at stake, then it's not just, oh, I'm going to let my mind settle down. It's driving me because it's coming from way deeper than just, oh, let me just relax here for a minute.
So how do you pause? And
Well,
what do you mean by
what I mean
pause?
by pause is I just kind of stop going through the loop. When it comes up, I just let it go. But that doesn't necessarily take me to this point of resolution. I'll see that I'm going through the same story. You know how it goes? It's like that same story of why it should be my way.
Exactly. Like Groundhog Day.
And it goes, it seems to go on its own.
Yeah.
So I can catch myself there and put that on pause, but that doesn't necessarily decouple me from what's deeper. That is my point of why I am right. And what's showing up in my life, the world, is wrong.
Yeah.
What I saw in this was kind of interesting because what I saw was kind of the core of this holding on to my position was what I sometimes refer to as the I thought. The I thought being the I, the me, that is the center of my universe, which of course we all experience, right? There's over 80 billion of us on this planet, and everyone's experience is that I'm the center of this world because we are, in terms of our experience, we're the center. And where I get into trouble, I see, is that despite the fact that I'm the center of this world and need to stay alive, protect myself so that I have this experience of life, I can kind of misinterpret a thought, my opinions, my desires, my preferences, to be a real threat to me, like my survival.
If they're challenged, you mean?
Yeah, when that's challenged.
Yeah.
And that's also subconscious that I don't see that what's being challenged as a thought because it feels just like a bus is about to hit me and I need to do something right now. I've got to react. I can't just sit here and let that thing hit me. So the pushback, the defensiveness.
Yeah.
And seeing that, it was so great because I see that whenever I feel that kind of tension that it creates and that sense of distance between us, whenever I'm experiencing that, I can see that I'm basically just arguing with what is. There's no bus about to hit me. She's made a suggestion to look into another camera, and somehow that's been interpreted as a bus about to hit me.
Yeah, isn't that interesting?
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah. How something gets triggered in us and we want to push back against it to feel safe, and it's a total illusion.
Yeah, it's an argument with what is. I mean, we can't change what is. You know, if Connie has a different opinion, she has a different opinion. And the idea that in order for us to feel close again, in order for this tension to leave, I've got to convince her that this camera is the right answer. That's where I get into trouble because then I'm arguing with what is. I'm battling with her to try and get her back on my side because I want to feel close. It's what we call dysfunction. So, yeah, what I see is always at the center of this kind of dysfunction is this I thought that thinks it needs to protect itself from something that's not a real threat.
That's it, exactly. That wants to argue with life, with what is arising, rather than see the possibility in it. Maybe there's really something to learn about this camera or a different camera.
So the other thing that I want to say about what I've seen in all this too is that it's not just a matter of doing anything I can to get back to that sense of closeness and harmony. We're both on the same page. It's not that we have to become a doormat. It's not that we're trying to necessarily get rid of this I thought, but to see that what I'm looking for is a sense of closeness and togetherness with Connie, with the world, not a fighting, not a pushing back against what is. And the way that I do that is when I begin to see life through the eyes of love, let's say love and understanding, that I thought isn't completely removed. I'm still taking care of Bill, but it's kind of relegated to its more functional position where it's in service to the love that I am and the love that I have to share with Connie and everyone around me. So that's the whole, a really big lesson for me in all this is how whenever I feel that tension and that sense of distance and pushback and the world's got to change for me to be okay and Connie's got to change for us to feel close again and all that managing of what's all around me in my circumstances. When I see that the way I can relegate that I thought that's being protective and defensive is to begin to see life through the eyes of, what I say, through the eyes of love and understanding. So that's, in a way, the pause that refreshes.
Well, how do you do that? Like move into the space of love and understanding?
Well, in this case, it was just giving it a matter of time. And when the loop would start again, and it would be the same exact story of why I'm right, I would just let it go. And like you say, relax. And it didn't necessarily settle my mind to the point that I could just let it go and let's see where we go from here. But eventually I got to that place where I could connect the dots that this tension and division that I was feeling between us was all around protecting this thought that this camera is what it's all about. When I saw that it looks like it's the camera that's the issue, it was kind of like, maybe that's not it. And so then let me take a look at this with a broader perspective. Let me kind of zoom out. Is there something more going on here than this camera issue needs to be changed, it's got to go my way.
And what did you see in the zooming out?
Well, in the zooming out, I saw that I'm protecting a thought, and that is pointless. That's pointless if protecting that thought is creating tension and distress in my life.
Yeah, for sure.
And that when I start to zoom out, all of a sudden the tension and distress disappears. It's like magic. It's like, oh, so this is what we've talked about before, how we're always experiencing our moment-to-moment thinking. When I'm thinking that what camera we use to shoot the kitchen scene is a matter of life and death, I create tension. And isn't it great that our system is designed to create this uncomfortable feeling when we're believing something that isn't true?
Yeah, that's the cue right there. Oh, I must be in a fairyland here because I don't feel good about this, and I'm designed to feel good.
Yeah, yeah. So it's not about getting rid of the I thought. It's about coming back to seeing life, seeing life through that broader perspective of love and understanding. And my opinions about the camera are still useful. We still need to choose a good camera, but it's not the primary driver, my opinion.
Yeah, well, I want to share a little bit about how it all unraveled because you did apologize, which was very sweet. And I said to Bill, well, you do so much for me. I can see why you might get upset, but let's look at what the possibilities are in this camera itself and see if we really should make a change. And in reviewing it and comparing our iPhone against the camera that you did purchase, I didn't see a big difference. It was more what was in my mind than what actually was on the video. So yeah, I said, I think this camera will work after all. And what did you find?
So
That
then I
was
did a
so
little more
great.
exploring in the app that controls the aspect resolution, aspect ratio of this camera. And it looks like I can actually do a square, which is very close to the 4:3 aspect that the iPhone does. So
We learned.
this whole thing, yeah, it's kind of brought us back to exactly what Connie wanted, the different aspect ratio, what I wanted, this camera. But it's taken us through this process of understanding the nature of the mind. And that's the most important lesson in it entirely, so that I know when I get triggered, it's probably not the issue that I think I'm triggered about. It's that I'm believing something that isn't true. I'm taking a position that I have about an opinion or a preference and making that primary for me to be okay and happy and close in this life.
So I'm so excited to share the recipe because we swooned over it. And it's kind of an unusual one. It's a butternut squash stew with leeks and apple. It's so good. I really encourage you to make it. And if you've never used leeks before, splurge and try it. You could always substitute totally for onion, but it won't be the same. And it was so good. We were stunned.
Yeah. It sounded like it would be good, and both of us were just over the top happy with it.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for your attention in this craziness that we sometimes go through.
We'll see you again next week.